How to Train Your Dragon. I adore this franchise more than any other, more than Harry Potter, more than the Hunger Games, more than Zelda, more than any of them. And each installment to the overall story has made my heart and oftentimes my tear ducts swell with emotion. If you've been consistent in viewing my content over this past summer, then you might realize that I have created 4 How to Train Your Dragon theory videos in just the past 8 weeks alone. I know, many keep commenting, when are you gonna get back to Zelda videos? Don't worry, they're coming. Once we get more stuff about the sequel to Breath of the Wild, you can be sure there will be more coming from me about that. But this is so important, okay? A little over a week ago, an announcement was found about a new How to Train Your Dragon 30-minute short coming this Christmas season, and I am so unsure how I feel about it. Hey y'all, I'm the Geek Apprentice, and I know, I must be crazy. How could I, a massive fan of all things How to Train Your Dragon, be unsure about my feelings concerning more being added to Hiccup's story? If you've seen these 2 videos, links in the description below, then you probably already have an idea as to why I hold some skepticism. I promise this will not be a pessimistic video. I actually do have some hopes and predictions for this short, but before we get into the nitty-gritty, let's go over what we know thus far. I received this information from a viewer of one of my live streams named Soup Night about a day after the news came to light. Here's what we know. Pulling directly from the NBC announcement, this short, airing this Christmas season, is titled How to Train Your Dragon Homecoming. The description is as follows. This holiday season, reunite with Hiccup, Astrid, Toothless, Light Fury, and all of your friends on the Isle of New Berk in this all-new CG animated adventure based upon the critically acclaimed How to Train Your Dragon film trilogy from Dreamworks Animation, starring the vocal talents of Jay Baruchel, America Ferrera, Gerard Butler, Craig Ferguson, and Christopher Mintz-Plasse, don't know how to pronounce that, among others. The story centers around Hiccup's plan to celebrate dragons with a grand holiday pageant at the Snoggletog Festival. This heartwarming idea leads to a series of unexpected, hilarious, and thrilling events, but no matter what happens, everyone in Berk is reminded that the dragons and humans are forever bonded. So as you can see, we have next to no information on this, though that won't stop us fans from dissecting every word to come up with theories and ideas. In fact, some of the information below that description kind of gives off the impression that you can only see this if you have like some sort of NBC channel subscription? I don't know, maybe I'm misreading it, we don't know a lot yet. I hope that's not the case. As aforementioned, I am a huge skeptic, but only because it's post-Dragon's Leaving. And yes, it is post-Dragon's Leaving, we know this because they mentioned the Light Fury, and also because they said it takes place on the Isle of New Berk. It doesn't matter if it's before the epilogue or after, I almost don't want it. But why do I feel this way? While I could explain all of my reasoning at great lengths, trust me, I could, we'd be here for hours. Instead, I'm going to summarize everything as best I can into 2 overall reasons. My first concern comes from the principle of the thing, if you will. When you look at how and why the movies have ended, it doesn't make sense to add more content post-Dragon's Leaving. I am someone for whom morals, messages, stories, and principles take deep root in my core, and I do not like them being messed with. They are extremely high priorities in my overall life. Yes, on the surface, these are children's works, but you can't deny that these have passionately strong teachings in them. Ones I explained well over in my most recent How to Train Your Dragon video, so be sure to watch that to get the full scope of this particular reason, as I really don't want to ramble here. Also, that video tells you how Toothless got all of the dragons from everywhere to the hidden world, so it's a theory video too. If you don't understand this, I don't know what to tell you. I guess we just think differently and have different priorities. My other concern is because of all of the many other franchises suffering from what I like to call don't know when to end disease. Star Wars, Harry Potter, even though I did enjoy the first 2 Fantastic Beasts, Disney live-action remakes, which probably shouldn't have ever been made, and many more. Absolutely, some love these new additions in these many franchises, and there's nothing wrong with that. However, I think many might feel the same way I do in that we get the impression that these creators, instead of creating solid new work, are just drawing out once great stories for money. I mean, yeah, they do have to make money, but I want the art part of it too. And I'm not saying they don't love what they're making, but at a certain point, I want things to end for there to be closure. Otherwise, it feels forced and like a cash grab. Part of the journey is the end. Comment below who said that and from what franchise. Basically, I love How to Train Your Dragon so much that it would be depressing to see it catch this disease. I'm not saying this short is a sign that it's definitely obtained the illness. What I am saying is that that's a legitimate fear to have, especially when you take into account my first reasoning. Are these worries of mine limited to just this short or anything new? Excellent question, because I do want to clarify this. Though I do believe ending with the film The Hidden World would be the strongest and most poetic way to finish the franchise, I would be far less skeptical if this short, or anything new for that matter, took place prior to the third film. It wouldn't be the first time they created new stories that released after the works that they come before. Look at the Netflix series Race to the Edge. I mentioned several awesome possibilities in this video if you want to check it out. As far as films go, not shows or shorts, it ought to remain a trilogy like they said. Why is the time in which these additions take place so important? What's wrong with it taking place post Dragon's leaving? Refer back to my first reason and thus my most recent How to Train Your Dragon theory video. In short, it would negate the power of Hidden World's message about Hiccup and his tribe and why they must let the dragons go. But if they added more material prior to the dragons leaving, I'd be so down for that. Because here's the thing, as perfect as it would be to end out the franchise with the Hidden World, I'm a sucker for these characters, the story, and especially the music, so I'm gonna watch anything. Of course I want more, I just want it done right, and I don't believe creating material that's post-Dragon's leaving, whether it's before the epilogue or after, is the right way to do it. I mean, the only reason Hiccup reunited with Toothless for a brief moment was to show his children the legacy that they are leaving and what they are fighting for. And to check on Toothless's tail. That's a legitimate reason. And yes, it's legitimate that he waited 9 years to check on the tail. He knows his handiwork. He's good. He's that good. Again, it's the principle of the message they gave us. Tell us about Hiccup's beginnings as a new chief like in those 2 canon comics. Or tell us about what it was like for all of the characters who went to the Edge to move back to Berg. Just throwing that out there. Okay, I promise this video wouldn't be total pessimism, and at this point, if you've heard both of my reasoning and watched those 2 videos, which I highly recommend for a broader scope and understanding of my reasoning, and you still don't agree, oh well. So what are my thoughts on this short specifically? Suffice it to say, I was not initially going to be making this video, as it would have been 100% fear, doom and gloom about them possibly ruining the message of the final film. Hence, since you are seeing this video, I must have at least some positive thoughts and ideas. Let's face it, I love How to Train Your Dragon and being an optimist too much to just sit and wallow in my concerns, worries, and fears. Because I don't express these worries to be like, oh, I already hate it and I'm never gonna watch it. No, I discuss them to give another point of view and share thoughts that I hope I'm not alone in. Though I also hope that I'm wrong and none of these scares come to fruition. Like, please, I want to be wrong. So let's get to those positive thoughts and ideas, because duh, I'm going to watch this short. I mean, I gotta at least try going in with an open mind. Dreamworks animation. Save for maybe the extra Shrek stuff, because I only like the first 2 films, Dreamworks has done a pretty good job of keeping themselves afloat in the sea of drawing things out too long. Sure, they've had some weird stinker films, B-movie, but when it comes to their most well-received works, they've done okay. For How to Train Your Dragon, I am beyond impressed that their main team and their smaller team that worked with other companies for the shows have done so well, making so much How to Train Your Dragon story, lore, and media, and not tarnish it. Because there's a lot. Like, a lot. And yeah, there were a few cheesy or bland moments, but not enough to rock the boat. So with this in mind, I'm choosing to try and trust Dreamworks Animation that they will do this short really well and do the ending and message of Hidden World justice. Speaking of other How to Train Your Dragon works, though I do still wish this short wasn't taking place after the dragon's departure, their other shorts have been really good. My only complaint was how Astrid was portrayed in Gift of the Night Fury. It was just weird, out of character, no. Basically, the 4 shorts were awesome, so why should this be any different? Or at least that's what I'm telling myself. Do I have any predictions for How to Train Your Dragon Homecoming? Like I said, I've already been peeling apart every bit of that tiny little paragraph description to theorize what is going on in this Snoggletog special. When does it take place? Well, Snoggletog, of course, Berk's winter celebration, which we learn all about in that short I already mentioned, Gift of the Night Fury. But where in the How to Train Your Dragon timeline does it take place? I have 2 ideas. My first thought is that it takes place during the first Snoggletog following the dragon's departure, so well within a year since they left, which opens up 2 possibilities in and of itself. We know Astrid and Hiccup got married during their first winter on the Isle of New Berk. I'll explain later. And we also know that winters are pretty long in their region of the world, assuming New Berk is similar to Old Berk, so it could either be prior to their wedding or after their wedding. My other idea is that the short occurs after the epilogue, after Astrid and Hiccup have already shown their children the dragons. The main reason we know it's not going to take place during those 9 years between the dragons leaving and the epilogue is because Dean himself confirmed that in those 9 years, Toothless forgot who Hiccup was. Just wanted to clear that up. What about the plot? As confirmed in the announcement, the citizens of the Isle of New Berk will be celebrating the dragons with some sort of pageant festival thing during Snoggletog per Hiccup's idea. Thus, when it comes to time placement, I lean more with my first option of it being the first Snoggletog following the dragon's departure, as that would be fresh in their minds. Though the second timeline placement is just as viable of an option, seeing as Hiccup would be fresh off of reuniting with his best friend. And also in part because of that last line where they say the Berkians are reminded that they are forever bonded, but that could also work just as well for the first idea too, so it's kind of wide open. Now that's playing off of what was already confirmed. But what else? Keeping my wheels turning here, the announcement said that Hiccup's heartwarming idea leads to unexpected, hilarious, and thrilling events. So these ideas I have could fall into any of these categories, I think. Maybe Toothless's tail has a malfunction shortly after going to the hidden world and the Light Fury has to bring him over to get his tail fixed, but I think we can trust Hiccup's handiwork way better than that, and also kind of anticlimactic, I think. Toothless tries to return post-epilogue. Perhaps if it's post-epilogue, Toothless tries to return paying Hiccup a visit like he visited him, and the Light Fury follows him to try and stop them, thus dragging the nightlights with them. And I would say this could lead to Hiccup trying to hide all of them so that the people of Berk don't panic for various reasons, but epilogue Hiccup is far more mature, so I don't see that happening. Breeding season! If you remember, in Gift of the Night Fury, Snoggletog also happens to be breeding season for the dragons, so they kind of left. I mean, they came back the day of, but it was sad in the moment. Chaos could ensue if for some reason some of the dragons decided to leave the hidden world to breed. That would be weird. This is pretty unlikely though, seeing as their breeding island is really far and nowhere near the Isle of New Berk, and I imagine Toothless would command them to stay, so yeah. They have all they need in the hidden world, so I don't know why they would leave in the first place. So I'm kind of out on big overall plot ideas. However, I do have plenty smaller ideas and questions. Flashbacks will definitely be a thing. Gerard Butler is in this, but we know that it's post-Dragons leaving, therefore his involvement must be in the form of flashbacks, which means we get to see more baby Hiccup, and that's really exciting. Where's Valka? Cate Blanchett's name was not mentioned directly anywhere in that announcement, and she's a pretty big name. So maybe if it's post-epilogue, her character has passed on and they only mention her. Honestly, her name probably just hasn't been announced yet, or they have to get a smaller voice actress for the role. I mean, they did that with the TV shows and it turned out fine. In case you were wondering, they used someone else for Snotlout, Roughnut, Gobber, and Stoic. Though we do have the OG Gobber and Stoic for this, so that's really cool. No other dragons. They only mentioned Toothless and the Light Fury. Not that they can't mention more later on or that they won't show up anyway, but I imagine that that would be too overwhelming for everyone involved, seeing as they just said goodbye. so it'd be hard to get everyone to say goodbye again. Though I do love Stormfly, and I could see a repeat of what happened between Fishlegs and Meatlug in the first Snuggletog short. It could happen. I mean, if you notice during the wedding scene in Hidden World, Fishlegs has like a stuffed toy fish Meatlug, which was the baby Grunkle, in case you don't remember. He had a stuffed toy version in his backpack, so he seems to be having a lot more separation issues than everyone else. My final thought is a post-wedding idea, and I think this might be the most plausible of any of them. Okay, hear me out. Hypothetically speaking, if this took place during the first Snuggletog following the dragon's departure, and Hiccup and Astrid have already been married for at least 3 or 4 months, I could see a little side story happening where Astrid's gift to Hiccup is telling him she's pregnant. That's why I said at least a few months, since they didn't find out those things as quickly back then. We know Astrid is a terrible gift giver and Hiccup is the best at it. We learn it in one of the later episodes of Dragon's Race to the Edge. It would be kind of cute if in the midst of trying to get a great first Snuggletog as a married couple gift, Astrid figures out that she's pregnant and therefore blows any gift of Hiccup's out of the water. Is this even possible though? Most definitely. Even likely. We have to involve a tiny bit of math though. First of all, let's just assume Hiccup and Astrid are the same age, which I'm pretty sure it's confirmed that they are. So, going off of that, in Hidden World they are 21. How do we know this? Because in the second film, Gobber says that Hiccup is 20, and then in Hidden World, Valka says it's been a year, making them 21. And the epilogue takes place 9 years later. I thought it was 10, but it was confirmed that they are 30 years of age in the epilogue, so 9 years later. On top of which, it was confirmed that Zephyr and Nothing's ages in the epilogue are 8 and 5 respectively, meaning Hiccup and Astrid were definitely 22 when their daughter was born. This is why I said they definitely got married during their first winter on the Isle of New Berk. No, we don't know when Hiccup and Astrid's exact birthdays are, but that doesn't matter. It is 100% fair to say that their daughter's birth was within their first year of marriage, seeing as they had to have been married before they were 22 or shortly thereafter in order for Zephyr to be 8 during the epilogue, thus opening up the possibility that during their first Snuggletog as a married couple, Astrid and Hiccup discover that she has conceived their first child. Also, to add to this point, it was confirmed that Zephyr is the first baby born on the Isle of New Berk, so that's cool. Maybe that's almost crossing the line into fan fiction territory, which I really don't want to do, but even if it doesn't at all get brought up during the short, we do know that Zephyr was born when they were 22. Wow! I can't believe it. I have managed to actually talk myself into getting excited for this short, which I'm really glad about. I mean, my sentiments and fears about ruining any franchise run deep, but I am choosing to trust Dreamworks so that I can go into my viewing of this short with a childlike positive attitude. That's the best way to do it. Let me know in the comment section any ideas you have about this short, but don't be surprised if I end up dismissing all of them. 1, because I'm a skeptic, and 2, I don't even really like my ideas all that much. This is why we need to just let Dreamworks do their thing and not us. I mean, these are the same people that delayed Hidden World multiple times to make sure they got it perfect, and they did, so I really shouldn't be worried. If this is your first time here, maybe consider subscribing. I also talk about Zelda, Disney, Harry Potter, and other franchises, so maybe check out some of those kinds of videos over here. But that's all for today. Thank you for watching.